the live stream we're doing tonight here on Sunday, 11 p.m. here in nice sunny Amsterdam today. Actually, it was nice. We had some good weather today, so I was very, very pleased with that. That's something that is long overdue. Make some adjustments to my lights here. Yeah, it's good. It's not so blinding. How's everybody doing out there? Glad to see everybody participating. Whether you're watching this live right now or you're watching it in the rerun, I want to let you know that I do appreciate you taking the time to watch. So thank you so much for doing so. Yeah, what an interesting week I've had this week. I was perusing the forums as usual. As you guys know, I usually take a look at the guitar forums and kind of get a read for what's going on, the current trends and things of that nature. And, I was reading about these guys who were going through the process of trying to get guitars that they had placed on order with the custom. Hi, I missed that last one. I'm sure somebody's checking in saying hello. Checking in with the custom shop. Hey, how you doing? So nice that you're here. Thank you so much. I hope you are well. And checking in with the custom shop and finding out that what they thought was going to take 2 or 3 years is actually going to take closer to 4. And I thought to myself, wow, that is really crazy. Could you guys imagine? I don't know if we talked about this before, but it blows my mind that somebody would have that kind of money tied up, because we're talking about 5, 6, 7, maybe even more, up to $15,000 in some cases, on these custom jobs that are going to take 4 years. I don't know where I'm going to be in 4 days, much less 4 years. I can't imagine, it's just, that's crazy to me. That's insane. Would you do that? Could you imagine? You know, you really got to be really desperate to have something specific. And then there's still no guarantees after 4 years of waiting, because there were guys who wrote in the same thread and said, I waited years to get my custom, and when I got in, I didn't like it. I don't even play it. And I spent a lot of money on it. And something to the effect he could never admit it or show the credit card receipt to his wife. So I found that hilarious. I was like, wow, man, you and I, we talk here, generally on the channel. We talk about buying things, through the, pretty regular channels. I think the longest that we have to wait for something, if we order something from overseas. I ordered a guitar from Guitar Center in January, still waiting. Think I'll cancel the order. Yeah, man, we're going to get into Guitar Center here in a minute. Actually, this thread leads into that one, so I appreciate you bringing it up. But yeah, some of these long order times on these things, if it's more than 30 days, then, if it's something that, that's out of stock and they say, hey, we'll take a deposit on it, or be the first one to buy this thing, when it first comes, put the full deposit down, the full payment down, and when the first one comes in, it's yours, kind of deal. That's sales talk, man. Good morning. Yes, good morning, Maddie. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend some of your morning with us. Yeah, that's sales talk. And well, I guess we're going to get into the Guitar Center thing now, because that's essentially what it is. That leads to another thread that I was reading, and interestingly enough, they were talking about a recent going on right now, to my understanding, on any item above $4.99, Guitar Center will give you an additional 10% off. And, then the thread, descended into their usual chaos. Wish they had just told me they no longer have the guitar. Well, that's the thing. If that was a sales guy who could book on his end a deposit or a sale that led to his commission at the end of the month. And, and that's, and that really goes to the quality of people working at your local, Guitar Center, which I'm not going to generalize because that's totally unfair, and I won't do that. But it has been my experience with the personal experience with the Guitar Center on up on Sunset Boulevard up in Hollywood. That in the decades that I was going there, the service absolutely deteriorated. So you get guys who are not trying to hook you up, but they're trying to hook themselves up, unfortunately. And again, that as they say, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, and they're getting that straight from the top because there's 10% off that they're offering, and then the forum goes into this whole discussion about well, is this great? Is this, well, if you do this, if you calculate this, well, if they have 30-day return and all these things. And I'm thinking to myself, am I the only one that realizes that the inflation that's gone in almost everything across the board in the last year and a half, year and a half, we'll say now, started a year and a half ago, so that's fair. That's a fair, it's far more than that 10%, by any, even the most conservative metric, so, it's essentially, a plus minus zero kind of proposition. It looks good on paper and it stimulates people to rush out and to buy things because they think they're getting 10% off. But I remind you, we this is something that we've talked about for a long time now here, is that essentially, and last year, a year and a half ago, or even more, was the time to buy things. That was your, and that's pre-COVID, by the way, because when COVID hit, that's when all bets were off. Everything shot up. You guys know that. And but if that was your sweet spot, anytime before COVID, as far as gear is concerned, and and now of course it is what it is, and really, if you're getting into buying things now, you are suffering, the consequences of that COVID bump, and once the price and several pricing. I mean, I think with Gibson, has there been what, three price increases in that year and a half span? Les Paul standard was $22.99, then got up to 24, 27. Now it's it's pushing $3,000 in that span of time. And then you get that coupon for 10% off. It's just, I understand the psychology of it. I understand that. So true, Mike. I think if this for more, yeah, dig that. But it's funny to me that these guys are arguing, the merits of this 10%, and once these prices go up, they never come down. They don't come down. You can forget about it. You can forget about it. Now the used market, that's a different animal altogether. And that's one of the reasons why Guitar Center wanted to get into the used market, the used gear racket. They really are trying to make a big push for that, if you've noticed. I think it's a little bit too late. There's other large retailers out there, Billy Sweetwater being one of them, that has a pretty good a program that they have you turn something in, and they give you a lot more than you would if you took it to to Guitar Center. Tell you that much. I was at the big retail shop here in Holland is that's of the Guitar Center level. Big shops, sliding glass doors, piped music, clean, not dingy at all, like some of the guitar shops I've been to, is Bax Music. And fortunately for me, it's about, it's the end of the tram ride here, but so not so far, and about a 10-minute walk from there. So nice place. And I went there for the first time, looking for a guitar case. And the price on their cases was so great. I have a Epiphone case that I was thinking to myself, well, these Faisley was the name of the brand. It's a Chinese brand, of course, but wow, really, they're fantastic cases, and much actually better quality than the Epiphone. And I said, well, I could swap my Epiphone case and maybe pick up two of these Paisley cases. They were that cheap. The guy said to me, don't even think about bringing anything here for a trade in. You will not be happy. And that's pretty much, well, how it is, I think, with big retail shops like that, and the Guitar Center being no difference. Again, Sweetwater, I believe that's correct, are the ones who have a program for used gear. They approach it a little bit smarter and a little bit differently. So there's that. But yeah, it's plus minus zero, guys. It's plus minus zero. You got, and they dangle 10% off you in front of you and act like it's the bee's knees. But the truth of the matter is that you're getting is either going to be a plus minus zero in most cases, or it's 10% off, as was pointed out before. Maybe 25% off would be a better deal. And that's correct. That then you got my interest. Then maybe we can get post COVID prices when we buy things from the old GC. But yeah, just it's a psychology. I always talk about that, and here was a classic example right there in the forums. Of that kind of marketing, and I just blows my mind. The guys, come on, listen. Where have you been? That 10% is a fool's errand. At the very least. And at the time to buy, and I've been saying for over a year, 2 years now, on since I've been doing live streams. So no, about a year now, I guess it's been, or maybe less than. Well, maybe I somehow I feel I've been talking about this for a while. It's just saying buy now. Now's the time to buy. Remember I said that? Now's the time to buy. And then you saw me slowly start to say, you know what? It's no longer a buyer's market. And I'm still holding it. It's no longer a seller's market. Sorry, it's a buyer's market. It's no longer a buyer's market in terms of getting a good deal. But it's definitely not a seller's market now, because sellers aren't moving anything, and everybody's doing some kind of discount, and then the discounts don't work, and then then the inevitable snowball effect, as I've been talking about, avalanche effect, goes where the prices start to just take deep dives. People just they'll take whatever they can get, and that day is not too far off. I made a deal on a guitar. I'll talk about a little bit later plans for the channel and things that I'm doing here. But I made a deal on a guitar, and I saw it listed on Reverb first. And my initial, as I told you before, I don't buy things off of Reverb. Oh, there we go. I've got a Reverb story for you. So I had a snare for sale. My snare, as I said, I sampled it, so and there was no longer a need for the physical snare anymore. So I put it up for sale. A gentleman in France bought it from me, and he received it, and he then informed me that no, this is not a 13-inch snare, this is a 14 in diameter snare. And I'm pretty sure with that snare, with that brand, and I actually had to do a little bit of research on it for the listing to give a little bit more detail on it, was exactly 13 as I listed it. Now, so here we have a guy, and in his first initial thing, he says to me, well, I think I'm going to return it. Knowing returns are a pain in the butt, but it's just a snare. And I said to myself, you know what? I bought that snare used for $40. And for what I sold it for, I told him, I said, you know what, man? I'm sorry that you feel as though it's not what it's supposed to be. I tell you what, you've got it now. We both know a return is a pain in the butt. I'll give you $20 off. So I gave him $20. And no, wait. So, so then he writes back to me, and he says, I'll accept your offer. He says, I've scratched it up quite a bit since I've had it anyway. So I really can't return it now. So that's when I knew I was dealing with. It's not exactly. And this is the second time I've dealt with this, where somebody has bought something from me, complained about it, but not quite enough to want to return it. Hey, why don't you give me a little bit more money off of this on it? It's kind of holding you hostage because you have to debate in your mind. Is it worth the cost of the return and all the things that accompany that? Or do I just want to get this person, out of my hair? Which is one of the reasons why I absolutely, I put it up on Reverb. The minute I did it, I prayed to the Reverb gods, don't send me a turd. The dice were rolled and it came up snake eyes, unfortunately for me. And so the second time's happened. So yeah, I don't selling things on Reverb is a drag too. Um, I just really still goes back to I prefer dealing direct with mom and pop shops, people like that. And if I do deal direct, I like to direct deal with guys who are guitar guys. They know what they're talking about. They know stuff they have or whatever. And there's not going to be this big back and forth that occurs when you deal with, every man out there. And so, you even had the nerve to say, I'll accept your offer, but you really should, list your things correctly in the future. And your first initial reaction is to send the big FU. But that is not the name of the game. When you're dealing with Reverb, you're basically putting yourself in the role of being a retailer. And as a retailer, there is a certain amount of level, maybe your line is about right here, but as a retailer, you're going to have to raise that line to about right there. It is not a game for the thin skin. And you have to recognize game when it's being played on you as well. You really do. You have to be sharp. I mean, you got to be good. Don't be dishonest yourself. But you have to be, was that, wise as wolves, but innocent as sheep kind of thing. Dig that. So I use Reverb just to kind of get a feel for things. And then I'll see, is this a shop? I only deal Reverb locally. I do sell in EU. I don't sell to the States anymore. So even with this snare drum, that was an EU only deal. I won't send anything to the States. Because let me tell you, shipping things to the States between here and the States is a pain in the butt, the forms and all the things you have to do. So on something small, like maybe a guitar, I would absolutely do it. But something like a snare or a pedal, no way, not going to happen. So there's that. I work in a guitar shop. I've seen it all. My PS meter is dialed in. Yeah, you really have to. I say, guys, I've always had a sales flair when I wasn't doing music because we all had, when I was in LA, I had two jobs. I was working in the studio or Babyface, but as a daytime job, I had to work as a sales manager. I had to, and or whatever hours I could pick up. So I've had it in me to be a salesman for a while, and so I'm blessed with that kind of thick skinness, I guess. I can take a lot of guff before I blow my top. I always find that it's best to fight, that kind of thing with a counterpoint attitude. If somebody's yelling at you, then you stay calm, kind of thing. So yeah, I shop locally, and that's the way that I go. And because you can strike a deal. The price that the guy was asking for this guitar on Reverb was $100 more than I paid for it when I found out that he was selling it locally on the equivalent of like Craigslist. It's called Mark Plots. And so I looked him up on Mark Plots, same guitar, and I was able to negotiate directly with him $100 off what he was asking for Reverb, and I just have to catch a tram and go pick it up on Tuesday. So that is a preferable thing than dealing with the guitar centers of this world. And that's why I'm always preaching mom and pop shops. I'm always preaching the small retailers, even when dealing with them through mail order, because they will respond better than the big box places will. You'll get a better response. So no, again, just to wrap up the Guitar Center thing, put a bow on that subject. You really have to, you gotta look at, you have to look at the bigger picture. There was a woman on YouTube who used to give lessons on how to think in 5 dimensions. You've heard of three-dimensional chess, four-dimensional chess, and thinking in 5 dimensions. In other words, really putting yourself as much as possible out of the situation, but gathering as much information about it in order to draw conclusions. That if you get caught up in the Bernanke marketing, that will just completely wash over you. You're getting 10% off inflated prices that are 25% more than they were a year and a half ago, a year ago. And it's going up. Inflation is increasing. So there's that. Epiphone, switching gears here, and actually talking guitars. I profess to be a guitar channel, but I sometimes find myself talking more economics. Hey, I'm a small business owner, and that's just the reality of it. And so I'm always going to be thinking like that. That's kind of my viewpoint, and I'm always going to have nothing but good things to say about other small business owners. And so there's that. But speaking of big business, Epiphone released an update on their guitar line. And I found it really timely. A lot of good channels, like if you haven't checked it out, my good friend 3-Chord Dave, check his channel out. He was talking about the new releases just on the day that I was looking into them. I wrote to him and said, hey, that's a quinky dink. You guys remember Kelly Bundy? And I am kind of enamored. So they have a casino, they have a Broadway, and my age and lack of memory, I forget the third. It'll come to me. But it's particularly the Broadway that I'm interested in, because now they've gone up in price. They used to Epiphone Broadway's is a jazz box. If you guys are not familiar with that, a jazz, like an L5, for example. It's a poor man's L5. L5 is a pretty, it's a meaty guitar, almost like acoustic, if you're not familiar. In terms of its bulk and build, but the Broadway by Epiphone, by leaps and bounds, more than anything out there on the market, if you're interested in getting that style of guitar, is really going to be your best bet because of the way that they were constructed, and they've really improved the construction on them now. I'll get into that in a moment. And they don't make a lot of them. And when they go relatively quickly. They hold their value. The Epiphone Broadway is one of those guitars that actually holds. It's one of those Epiphone guitars that holds its value. The reason being, I think, my speculation is because there's not a great deal of them, as opposed to a lot of their other models, and because under $1,000, if you're a jazz student, hell, if you're a jazz player, pro player, that's going to be your best option to get something like that, to get that style of guitar. And so they hold their value. When they come up for market, they sell, as long as their condition is good, and they generally are. I've never seen a beat up. It's funny, I've never seen a relic jazz box. How come they're not relicking those? I don't know. Gee. It makes you think. But anyway, I digress. So they have released this again. It's been maybe a 2 year or 3 year hiatus, not that long. They've had them out before, but they've re-released them in the 5-ply body with a pine top, which is the way that they should be. It's a pine veneer, but it is a pine top. And that is the correct sandwich. I always talk about with 335, you want maple, popular maple, as a sandwich the combination in order to make that particular tone wood work. This Epiphone Broadway is the same that you would find, going back to its origins. Um, a nickel 2 classic pro pickups, which I like. You guys know I'm an actual a fan of those Epiphone pickups, those particular ones, and just a beauty. And so they are no longer, unfortunately, under $1,000. They are now going for $1099. So again, here we are again, where we see a price increase on these things, but a quality increase that corresponds to them. I think the Epiphone is doing the right thing. The quality increase that they have in their production lines that you've seen since the 59s, for example, up into this date, with these Broadway, the casino, and God dog it, what is that other one? If somebody out there knows, chime in. Um, the quality and the price, yeah, the price has gone up, but the quality has increased. And again, like on that Joe Bonamassa 335, you could feel that it was made very well. It was made with some kind of care. So I'm not begrudging Epiphone on the price increases. Actually, I think that you're still, even though it's no longer under $1,000 like it used to be a few years ago. Again, the death knell for prices started right before COVID started, or right when COVID started. But even still, it's a bargain guitar. SG, yeah, yeah, yeah. Dig that. So yeah, dig that SG. So the Broadway. No, it wasn't the SG. No, not. But if you're saying that, if you're indicating that was, it's the Broadway, the Casino, they're hollow body guitars, and there's a third one that they make that is I should know that name. Broadway, the Casino, and I can't think of the third one. Anyway, it's a quite amazing construction that they've done, and I still think that for the price you're getting good value. So I was looking into it because that's something that you could buy and you could put away if for a year or so. Riviera, my man, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can never remember the Riviera or the Sheraton. It's one of those two, but still, I can never remember the Sheraton or the Riviera. I can for some reason I can never remember those guitars. There's just something about them. They're like the Jar Jar Binks of guitars. 3-chord Dave, my brother. Yes, he is a good man. He's a good man, guys. You just, like I said, you could just tell some people who just have like a really good spirit in him. And 3-chord Dave is definitely one of those guys. To support his channel and go over and give him a holler. But yeah, it's an interesting thing that they're doing. They're really, I saw that with their Bonamassa. They have the mini humbuckers. Um, yeah, I think in the Broadway, it's full size humbuckers, I believe. Um, the Casino is mini humbuckers, I do believe, and the Riviera is Sheraton, one of those two as well. But it's full size humbuckers in the Broadway that I recall. It's got to be. I couldn't see that working with minis. But yeah, but that's the thing about it, is that if you can buy something like that and put it away, it'll hold its value. There are guitars out there that are Epiphones that will hold their value. Like, for example, even though they're not moving anymore, just to give you a report on that, Epiphone, well, I guess I won't even get into that, but there are Epiphones out there that are just not selling. I've been eyeing this Epiphone for a long time. Casino, P90s, mini humbuckers is in the Riviera. Yes, yes. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, and people are starting to eye them and take a look at them. They're not. There are some models that they had a big rush. I won't get into which one. You know which one I'm talking about. That had a big rush when they first came out and starting to really slow down now, but they're still holding their value, their base value. You're not going to get one for less than base value on those. So there are Epiphones out there that are starting to come out that are looking like they have a better hold of value than a Gibson, to be honest. Some Gibsons, Les Pauls are all over the place. I've seen prices of Les Pauls anywhere as low as $2,000 US. And then that same one you'll see next to it for somebody's asking 29. So the prices are all over the place with that kind of, and condition, of course, speaks a lot to it. But yeah, there are some Epiphones out there that are holding their value, and that's one of the reasons I'm interested in the broad. That's one of the reasons I'm interested in the Broadway. I've always wanted like an L5 style guitar, and being able to get something that I think has a quality build on it. I think they've more than displayed to me, again, with the Joe Bonamassa, that they can do hollow bodies real tight. So that's something I was looking at. So I like their new model. I like the fact that they're emphasizing their hollow body work. Hey, cats right now. I didn't see that. Musicians Friends doing something there, guys. Check it out. But keep again, like I said, keep Bernays in the back of your mind. Nephew to Signum Freud. Did I say that right? Anyway, he's a nephew to Freud. He was the originator of the whole concept of marketing and advertising, and quite a disseminator of psychology and how it works with people buying things. Diamonds used to be worthless. Diamonds didn't have any. Diamonds were very common. They had some value to them, but they weren't the big things that they are now. It was Bernays that made that. They're making the 59 and lemon burst now. Hey, very nice. Well, yeah. No, I remarked that before. That was a limited thing that Aldersons had over there in the UK. They had a lemon burst for the 59 for a while. That was a special order thing. I guess now it's gone into their regular production. The greenie guys who are interested in getting greenies, that's good news. For the guys who didn't get the Lazarus, that's good news. So yeah. I just worry about the tops, guys. Like I said, I bought one of the very first ones, and when I went down and saw another one that's up for sale and saw the top on it, I was shocked because they were completely different. My top had a lot of flame. Once I polished it out, you guys know it. It had a lot of flame to it. The tops on the ones they're coming out with, at least the two that I saw, the cherry and the dark burst. Those tops were just unphenomenal. They were unremarkable. They were lacking. They were seriously lacking. Just a guitar, center musicians, friend exclusive. Yeah, it's good to take a look at those. And, there are some things that are worth buying using those sales. They have, those 10% also have advantage on strings. I would load up on strings. If there's a particular brand that they use, thanks, James, in the EU, though. Yeah, me too. But we got guys in the States watching, so everybody else can dig into that. And the territories. You guys can take advantage of that. It's too much of a VAT to ship things over here. Because of my business and because of the license that I hold, I'm able to write off the VAT, things related to my business that I import, which fortunately are guitars. But for everybody else, that is a big, big, big hole. So that kind of keeps the trade of those kind of things down to a minimum. I mean, and that goes across the board. Computer parts, you know, you really have to learn how to source things over here when you're here. But for me, it's no different. So I lived in Singapore, for God's sakes, which is try sourcing things there, guys. You can't even get printer ink. Ran out of printer ink right at the beginning of Corona. Called up down to the store to get some. It was all gone, and it never. And the time until the time that I left, they never had any in stock. So I had to scrounge around and reach out to Ireland to get some. Crazy times, but you know, again, it's a good thing that Epiphone is doing. I think that they are making strides, and I think that they're good investments. I think, you know, I'm in an Epiphone drought right now. No, actually, I'm not. I have an Epiphone on its way. Well, actually, I guess that's a good segue. How are we doing? Well, I see 11 people watching and 4 likes out there, so there's something wrong with the math there. So hit those likes, guys. Hit those likes. Hit it up. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, you know, speaking of my business, you know, I had a good friend over in Japan reach out to me late last year. And he and I started talking, and one of the things he loves, you know, you know, he's not into guitars per se, but he's one of those idea guys, Japanese guy. He's an idea guy. He's always got business ideas. And I like that. It's really good to have that kind of guy around you. Those are the kind of friends you want to surround yourself with. The smart ones, or the smart ones are one. The idea guys are another. You know, the too many party guys among your sets of friends or idiots. It's not a good mix. But in this case, I would be the idiot in that mix, in this particular mix. Uh, but he said to me, you know, you're over there in the EU. Um, I have a secondhand license over here in Japan. You have a license to import things. You know, we could just for, I know you got a YouTube channel, and I know that you like to review things. And that became the genesis of he and I developing a little partnership here where he's sending me guitars from Japan that I pick out. Now I pick them out. Again, he knows about he's not a guitar guy per se, but he has a secondhand license, which means that he can go on the Yahoo auction sites that are not available to anybody else and pick up instruments, Japanese guitars at really very inexpensive prices, and then get them over here to me, and then I can move them on as I see fit. But I think that it really started with that initial conversation about hey, I got this, you got this. You know, it's like the Stone Soup story where hey, I've got some dried up carrots, well, I got some dried up beef, well, I got some pot, well, I got some water, you know, and we came together and made some soup. And so you guys will see guitars coming through from Japan. And also, and that led to me saying, well, I'm going to sell some of them myself directly, I said to him, because some of them I can take to retailers that I have relationships with, and we can move them on and make it worth our while. Certainly, this is not a charity, but at the same time, you know, you have to be reasonable. And as I said, right now in this marketplace, right now, it's really got to be something exceptional if it's going to move. Which is another reason why I pick them. You know, I only pick the ones that I think, which is why I really keep a pulse on what's hot and what's not in the vintage Japanese guitar market, old stuff we're talking about, or stuff that was only released in Japan. That's the only thing. Hey, thank you. That's the only thing that I'm dealing with. I'm only dealing with the old vintage stuff, and I'm only dealing with or the stuff like the Tak Matsumoto double cut custom that is here now. It's in customs here. They're inspecting it, so I should have it here at my front door shortly. Stuff like that that did not get released out to the U.S., Canada. I think that they were in the U.K. Limited, but yeah. Oh, Gibson Leverage Honey Burst is in front of me. What are you rocking today? Yeah. Talk about your guitars. Show off your guitars, guys. I know there's some good ones out there. Actually, some of you guys got some guitars that I'm actually envious of. You talk about them. Honeyburst, that's a sweet one. So yeah, I have a Epiphone on its way. I talked about Tsumoto, which was only released in Japan. Burst Bucker pickups 2 and 3. So we will be taking a look at that. But I decided to set up a website where some of the things that I bring in, I want to make available, of course, to people who watch this channel as well. Who say, hey, that's great, how can I get that? But because of imports and things like that, it may be difficult, or there may be some confusion, or just and reasonably so, a reluctance to want to order from the unknown, So, but it's only going to be on stuff that I pick out that I find interesting and I put up on the websites. Some of it's going to retailers that have already set up that channel, uh, uh, but I do want to make it available also to people who watch this channel as well, because I started to realize in some of the comments, uh, purple strat, nice. Purple strat, wow, that's a custom color, custom purple, really? It's got to be. I never saw one off the shelf strip purple. That's sweet. Yeah, so I want to do that, and so that's one of the things that I'm doing. The other thing that I'm doing is my album, Blue Yamaha Rev Star. I really like those Rev Stars. I've talked about that before. I think those are excellent guitars. I really think if you guys haven't seriously looked at them, you should. They're great. I think the other thing that I'm going to do is convince my good friend Jock to finally finish mastering my album that I've been talking about for a few months here now. I was kind of in limbo about what I was going to do about my album. And because Jock was involved in some things that he had to deal with, and we both put it aside for a minute. But I'm going to complete that album, and that's also something that I'm going to put up for sale on the website. And I'm doing this to support this channel. I don't ask for donations. I don't particularly try to make a thing about super chats or any. I don't sell T-shirts or mugs or anything like that. But I do realize that I could use a little bit of investing into some more things that I like to do for this channel. Certainly bringing in interesting guitars and some stuff that I find fascinating. The other guitar that I got, other than the DC Custom I bought, was a Diamond guitar from the 90s, a 25-year-old guitar. But it's interesting, and it's something that I find fascinating, that I'd like to talk about, because they have quite a fascinating history behind them. And there's nothing like the real thing, baby, like the old song. Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. Yeah. And so having the actual guitar in my hands and talking about that, I think makes more sense than just showing pictures of them. But again, like I said, the ones that I find interesting. So there will be that coming up. So the best way, if you want to support the channel, when I do that, when the album goes up, I'll make it something like you can buy it for whatever you want to, contribute to it. And the artwork is done. Everything is done. It just needs to be mastered. So that'll be the channel that I will sell the album through, because I don't want to put it up on the usual suspects, because I have 5 albums up. For God's sake, on one of those albums, I have a song, Nothing That Fancy. Started out life as the Swire Galactic Purple. These days, the body is the only thing that had. Okay. Okay, I got you. Still, that's something. That's a great color. I always wonder why they didn't come out with a regular production purple Strat. I never have seen one. And I have seen a lot of guitars. But to support the channel, I said, why don't I put those things up? And at least it's, because because my motto is I'm good, so I don't want to particularly sell you things. I don't want to. I want to talk about things, but and I have to balance it. It's a tough balance, guys, because I don't want to come across as I don't want to be that guy. As entertaining as some of these YouTube channels are, at the same time, it can come across sales pitchy, and I really don't want it. As a matter of fact, I warn against it. It's a balance that I've been contemplating, I've been struggling with, and I said, well, you know, my good friend Yamato-san is willing to work with me. He wants to do it, and he's kind of pushing, pressing me to do it, and it's solid and it's worked out, not just on paper but in reality. And I don't want to put my album out because I have 5 albums out. One of them, I have a song that's an international song. Perfectly. There's songs that have been used in commercials that have been played, been heard by millions of people. Seen on screens in theaters throughout all the Asia's. Tracks on my albums, and I haven't seen a check from any of those places yet. In years. I haven't, you know. And I got so insulting. I have CD Baby over in the States who's doing my accounting for me, my revenue, and they're supposed to be checking on everything that comes through. Yeah, yeah. You have your own. That's a good point. You have your very own custom there without doing the custom, without waiting 4 years. Again, why would you wait 4 years? Do it yourself. Any advice on getting out of a creative songwriting slump? I'm working on an album myself. Well, that's an excellent question. And I'm glad you asked that because I very rarely get questions about songwriting. Thank you. I actually have an answer for that because the writing creative process comes from life. When I write a song, I'm not imagining it. I'm drawing from real life things that happen. And sometimes when we're in the same environment for an extended period of time, we can run dry or we're seeing the same thing. We're not seeing something new to create that creative spark. I truly believe that, you know, a lot of that comes from experience. It doesn't have to be seen experience. It can be heard experience as well. You can hear about something, a concept, an idea, a revolution, a revolutionary thought, something that sparks a creative idea. Hey, I want to write a song about that. So what you're constantly looking for is different stimuli in order to. Why do you think the top pop stars are always traveling around and they're going to, the ones who write, not the ones who have 10 writers working for them, but the ones who actually write. So I guess we're going old school. Guys like, well, anyway, you choose whoever you want to. They traveled around a lot. They'd go to Marrakesh, they would go to Malibu, or they'd go to the moors of Scotland, or they'd go all these different places. You think about the English bands in the 70s, they would all haunt the most scariest joint they could find. I'm serious. It seems like they all wanted to record in a haunted, like Black Sabbath. Like, we're not going to record in the studio unless there's ghosts here, mate. But even stuff like that sparks songs that they wrote. It's stimuli, man. And I said it doesn't have to be seen because I think about Stevie Wonder. He doesn't see anything. And that way, he sees things through different means. His other senses are alert, but he's still taking in stimuli. Got to travel, got to move, observe. Yeah, then write. It doesn't have to be far, man. It could be your local museum. You go down to I have from 10-minute walk from where I sit right now is one of the most renowned museums in the world. And sometimes I'll go through there and I'll look at the paintings or I'll look at things, and sometimes they'll make me think or they'll inspire me. The song that I wrote, Strolling in the Moonlight, for example, I was walking through in Kyoto, Japan, one night. The moon. It's like the lyrics. What happened? The lyrics are with the moon shining down on our heads, walking past a castle built by a stream, a temple built by a stream. That's exactly what happened. I was walking down a path, the moon was shining down, and right next to me and this girl that I was walking with, there was a Japanese temple, and that was the first line of the song, and it came from a real experience, and everything else that flows through those lyrics. Every lyric that I write has, even, I'll admit to you, look at some of my raunchy songs, like Perfectly Lucky. The walls are dripping, and and I can't stand the thrill of the ride. I'm being literal. I'm talking about what you think I'm talking about, but that's an experience too. You know, some people don't like writing that way. Some people have no ability to write that way, so they're just vulgar for vulgar's sake. I like guys like Prince. He wrote the line, "She's got the cutest sass he's ever seen." He could have said ass, but he didn't. He said sass. He's being creative, being smart. And that's another thing. Be smart in your songwriting. Now, as far as music is concerned, the chords, the music itself, I honestly can't help you with that because the music itself is like a radio station that you tune into. That's why some people say, well, this song sounds like that's one or this one or other. Well, it's all coming from the same source. And I think as a songwriter, if you know what I mean, it's like you're sitting there and then the chords, that old tired saying, the chords write themselves or the music writes itself. But that's true though. Sometimes they write themselves. She's my cherry pie. Looks so sweet, let me tell you why. Tastes so good to make a grown man cry. So, that song was written in 10 minutes. It was because the record company didn't like any of the singles that Warren had. I went to high school with Warren, so I know the story very well. They didn't like any of the songs as a single. And so they went to them and said, hey, you guys got to come up with something. They spent 10 minutes, wrote those lyrics, wrote those chords, and what were you serious about? It didn't like it was just being tongue in cheek, and it ended up being their biggest song. And one of the reasons why the lead singer unfortunately decided to off himself because he just didn't like the way that his career went because of that. But that's the thing. That songs that once they're out there, they'll take a life of their own. And if you're the writer of that song, that's a blessing and a curse. It really depends. So that's all I can say on the chords themselves. With me, it just comes. I can't explain it to you guys. And I've written thousands of songs at this point. And sometimes the lyrics come first and then the melody comes. Sometimes the melody comes first and then the lyrics come. It's always different. Sometimes they both come at the same time. But you have to put yourself, and it's not going to come at all sitting in a room staring at four walls. Or watching. Sometimes it can come from watching TV. I've written there's got to be at least one song that I've written. Something in there was inspired by a TV show in some way. But that's not that's not where it comes from. It comes from experience. And your own personal experience too, and how raw you want to be as an artist, and how honest you want to be. I've been raw about myself. My albums, if you listen to the five, these albums, every one of them is me. It's talking about a different aspect of myself. I'm being raw and open in a lot of ways. I'm not talking about somebody else. These are all my experiences, and you as an artist have to decide how raw and open you want to be. So again, like I said, but there's a fine line between being vulgar and being, truthful. And the vulgarity is not just sexual vulgarity. You can go into a lot of, other aspects as well, so you have to, but maybe you're just an asshole. So that's what's going to come out. There's always that. Rest in peace, Queen. Yes, rest in peace, guys. The queen of rock and roll, Tina Turner. I'm not going to dispel that. She is the queen of rock and roll. I had to think about that, because there from her era, there are a lot of Jazz Joplin, Grace from there's a lot of I go through the list of a lot of different women from her era that spawned rock, but she was, to be honest with you, she was it. She's the best of the lot in terms of vocal and longevity as well. You know, and she made it out of the system alive, to live and have a normal death. You cannot say the same thing about Michael Jackson, Prince, Whitney Houston, you know, Amy Winehouse, Kurt Cobain. You can't say the same thing. Jimi Hendrix. I could go through the list. Jim Morrison. Should I continue? I could sit here and list a lot. So the fact that she came out in that regard is impressive in itself, especially in this industry and especially with her turbulent life when she was younger. So yes, I pray that she finds the rest in peace that she deserves. But yeah, man, dig that, guys. I appreciate the question about songwriting. I hope that I gave you some help there. Again, it's experiences. I've, to my detriment, have lived for experiences in my life. My life experiences has been what's been my driving factor. I've slept at the steeps of Mount Everest. I've done that. I've been to and fro and back and forth, and even in some cases underneath this earth in my lifetime, in different parts of this planet. I've literally lived around the globe. And I did all that to get experiences, and I took all those experiences and I put them in my art, which is music. So there's that too. So it's about experiences. Try to gain as many experiences as you can. You don't have to go far. Just go someplace new. Go someplace different. Hang out with somebody different. So hang out with somebody, that you or and not Charles Manson, but you know what I mean. Hang out with somebody who might put a different perspective on things, That's what that's about. So those are my plans, guys. If you want to support this channel, I'll let you know when it's up and running. Take a look at the website when the album's up. If you like supporting the channel by buying it, I would be so gracious and thankful for that support. Of course, if there's a guitar that you see that I do have up on that website as well, or something like that, whatever comes through that goes that path, and you feel that it's something that you want to look into, I appreciate that as well. But just I'm thinking of ways in order to honestly get income that I can invest in this channel, where I'm doing something where I feel like I'm giving something of value. That's what this is all about, and why I've come to this conclusion. Because the channel is growing by leaps and bounds. My top video has more views than some local television programs here, to be honest with you. News shows, 150,000 and plus views on my video, and the next one is 89,000. So and every day new people are joining, and I want to give value out there. But I also want to find ways to bring revenue. The money still, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm the revenue stream from this is still a couple of $100 every month, every few months. And so I would like to find other ways. Of course, as I increase, we're almost up to 300 videos. We're 100 or so views, subscribers away from hitting 2,000 subscriptions. So the channel is definitely growing, and I want to add value to it. And the way I can do that is to find things that I can get you guys to want to help support the channel through, in order to use those funds in order to, make the channel better. So there's that, guys. I want to share that with you. In closing, with my going forward plans, Jock and we tried to do the live stream thing. I even wrote to Google. I can show you guys the email. Even they don't know why we're not able to do a live stream together. So what we're going to do is we're going to tape something and then put that up this week. I've got some unboxings coming up this week. I will decide what I'm going to unbox, what I'm going to talk about. I might talk about that Dear Mom guitar, to be honest with you. I'm thinking about, it's a Demond M75T, the Champagne Sparkle. You guys are going to love the top on this one. The thing about these guitars, this 25-year-old guitar. Great show, Mike. Thank you, Ben, for showing up. Thank you, man, for taking the time for showing up, brother. Thank you. You guys are going to love the top on this Dear Mom that I bought. Champagne Sparkles, it was called. 25-year-old guitar. And it's something different, guys. It's not something that you've seen me have on this channel before. And I was able to get it at a good price. So that's something I might unbox and show this week. Joplin, yeah. So Joplin had the chops. Grace Jones from the Jefferson Starship, I could argue, was a rock and roll queen, herself in her own right. Not Joni. Joni Mitchell, that's a different game. It's a different, that's folk thing. Even though she got into rock a little bit later. It's not really the same thing. So yeah, I absolutely, I can co-sign on Tina Turner being the queen of rock and roll because of the songs and stuff, especially the stuff she did, with Phil Spector, So there's that. So something's coming up this week. I've got plenty of stuff. My plate overfloweth this week with content. So I may even throw out, I found some of my old live shows I did with my Japanese band. So I might even throw one or two of those up, just for your entertainment's sake. So whatever it is, check out my regular content, guys. When you check it out, hit the like button. As always, thank you so much for taking the time tonight to join in. I do appreciate every one of you guys showing up tonight. This has been really a fantastic live stream. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch, whether you're watching live now or you're going to catch this in the rerun. Thank you so much. And you guys have a good week. Be good to each other. Be good to your families and friends. And have a good holiday tomorrow for those of you speaking into existence, as just said. Yes. And have a good week. See ya.